Hello, my friends. It is already mid-November, which is crazy. I'll be honest, I have felt super off the last few weeks. I have been doing so many great things. Work is going really well. I've been having lots of fun times with my kids and events and things. It's been really good, but also I've just felt off and my reading has not been going so well, and I have not wanted to film anything for YouTube. So it's now mid-November and I'm just now filming my October reading wrap-up, which is totally fine, but it is what it is. Okay, for my October reading wrap-up, October was my birthday month and I read 8 books for a total of 2,528 pages. The longest book I read was 403 pages and the shortest book was 156 pages. 3 books were hard copies, 1 was an ebook, 3 were audiobooks, and 1 was a combination of hard copy and ebook. 4 books I got from the library or Libby, and 4 of them were purchases, with 1 of those being purchased from a thrift store. So I'm just gonna go in chronological order from the beginning of the month, and the first book that I completed was You've Got Chainmail by Samantha Parks. This book was written by booktuber Searching for Samantha. I have followed her channel for a little while now, and she just recently published this book, and I decided to get a copy. I really like her channel and the things that she shares about the books she's reading and about her writing. She's got a great channel, make sure you check it out. So this is the first book that I have read by her, and it's a romance. The 2 main characters, Morgan and Jack, are in the same Dungeons and Dragons group. Their group decides to travel to a Renaissance fair, and as they start working on their costumes and their travel plans and all of these things, they start to fall in love. I wasn't sure what I would think because I had basically no knowledge or understanding of Dungeons and Dragons, but this book, you didn't need to. I enjoyed her writing, I liked the characters, and you didn't need any sort of understanding of Dungeons and Dragons. The book made it feel very accessible and easy to read, and I definitely want to read more from this author. The second book I finished was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and this was the book pick from Ellen Made Book Club for the month of October. I honestly did not know what to expect from this one. Everyone was saying that it was a super sweet story, but also that it was about a woman and an octopus, and I admit that I was a little skeptical. I was a little unsure of what this book would be about, but I did really like it. So it's about a woman named Tova who works on the night shift at an aquarium. She ends up kind of befriending Marcellus, who is an octopus in one of the tanks in the aquarium. Marcellus is a very smart octopus, and some of the chapters are from his point of view and kind of his observations on Tova, on humanity in general from people visiting the aquarium, and also he is an octopus who likes to collect trinkets and things that fall on the floor that people drop. So that kind of comes into play as well. Tova is dealing with grief from her husband passing away, as well as long-term grief from her son disappearing decades ago. This is a very sweet story about friendship, about loss, about grief, family, growth, and moving forward. I gave this 5 bookmarks. The third book I read is called Was the Reformation a Mistake? Why Catholic Doctrine is Not Unbiblical by Matthew Levering. This is the most recent read aloud that I have done with my husband while we do our road trips and driving and whatnot. And it was a very interesting read. The author states in his introduction that he is not trying to necessarily land conclusively on either side of Protestantism or Catholic, even though the author himself is Catholic. He is just trying to show that there is a biblical case to be made for these Catholic doctrines. So with each chapter and each of the doctrines that he discusses, he opens with a lot of quotes from Martin Luther, the Reformer, and kind of some of his concerns, critiques on that doctrine. And then the second half of each chapter is the Catholic response and the Catholic biblical case for that doctrine. So it was really interesting seeing, because I had only heard mostly the Martin Luther perspective, and it was really interesting hearing the other perspective, and especially seeing the 2 perspectives side by side within each chapter. The next book I read is another romance, and that was The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This book is about Lily, who strikes up an email correspondence with one of her favorite authors. Her favorite author writes under a pen name, and not very many people know who he is. She's one of his few fans. After they correspond for a while, they end up having a genuine friendship and possibly even developing feelings for one another, but then he mysteriously ghosts her. A little while later, Lily ends up needing a date for her sister's wedding, and she decides to ask her new neighbor, Nick. Now, this is not a spoiler because it is in the book description, but Nick actually is her favorite author that she was corresponding with, and he figures out pretty quickly who she is, that this is the woman he was emailing with, but she doesn't know for a while. So obviously that comes up, things are at play, one thing leads to another, sparks fly, romance ensues. And when I was looking back at Goodreads, I apparently didn't give this one a rating. I think I couldn't decide exactly what to give it. I really enjoy reading romance, but there's usually just like specific things that I really like in my romance stories that I think this book just didn't have. But it was a fun read for what it was. I think if I had to rate it now, I would give it maybe 3.5 bookmarks. The next book that I finished was Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory, and I talked more about this in another video where I think it was the one, I'll link to it. I think it was the one where a random number generator chose how long I read for a weekend. So I'm only gonna talk about it in brief here. You can click over to that other video for more of a review. I gave this one 3 stars. I enjoyed aspects of it. I enjoyed aspects of the author's writing style. However, the male main character just had some orange to red flags that I just personally couldn't get over. And yeah, I talk more about it in that other video if you're interested. Next is The Editor by Stephen Rowley. This book I gave 4 bookmarks, and I also talked about it, although more briefly, in that same video with the random number generator. I listened to this on audio and I enjoyed the audio version. In this book, James has just found out that his debut novel was picked up by an editor. And when he arrives to meet the editor for the first time in real life, he discovers that she is none other than Jackie Kennedy Onassis, the former First Lady of the United States. This story is about books and writing and authors, which is always fun, but it's also about family and relationships and personal growth. And I liked a lot of the themes that he drew out in this book. I enjoyed it and I gave it 4 bookmarks. Next was a poetry book. The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is a book of poetry that I found at a thrift store, and the title grabbed me right away and I decided to give it a try. The poems go through lots of aspects of the author's life, and the messages of her poetry will reach a lot of readers. Messages about love and loss and grief, overcoming and standing in your own power. The last book that I finished in October was The Hitchcock Hotel by Stephanie Roble. This thriller is about Alfred Smedel, who has opened up a hotel that is themed after Alfred Hitchcock, the famed horror movie director. He invites his college best friends to his hotel one weekend, and the story is told from multiple points of view. So as people start arriving to the hotel and we hear from a little bit about their perspectives, we kind of keep picking up hints and pieces that maybe one person might be there under duress, one person might be threatening another person, something might have happened senior year that nobody wants to talk about. So we're kind of picking up all these little things, and this book had me gripped basically from page 1. I was so hooked. I was so curious about the mystery. I loved all of the little hints and references to Alfred Hitchcock and his movies. The twists at the end were not quite, I guess, what I was hoping for, and I was a smidge disappointed. But overall, like, I really enjoyed just the whole experience of reading this book, and it just made me happy and I really liked it. I gave it 4 bookmarks. Okay, so for my November reading, of which we are halfway through the month, I have read a few books so far, which I won't talk about because they'll come up in next month's wrap up. But yeah, I'm still just kind of feeling blah about reading. So that's so great. But my book club pick for the month, which I have only barely started halfway through the month, is By Any Other Name by Jodi Picoult. I am really excited about this book. I have read 2, maybe 3 other books by this author, and I've really loved her writing, and her books always make me think. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think I might have read 2 chapters. I'm pretty much right at the beginning. So that is the book month pick for this month. I really want to open another wrapped book, but I think just with how I'm feeling, it's probably not a good month to do that. So hopefully I can pick that back up another time. I am hoping to start Frankenstein, which is so exciting because that will be the first official pick from my 40 before 40 list. So I'm hoping to start that this month. And I also started reading a book called 7 Drafts by Allison K. Williams, which is fitting as I am aggressively editing my novel this month. I also still have Here One Moment by Leon Moriarty. She's one of my favorite authors. I got to meet her in person and I got this book that night and I really want to start reading it, but I keep putting it off. I've been feeling, again, just so blah about reading that I want to wait to read this until I know that I can just sit and enjoy and savor and really take the book in. But now I'm like, what if that's the book that will bring me out of a reading slump? So do I read it hoping to get out of a reading slump, or do I wait until I know I'm in a place starting out that I will just love and savor it? That's the current conundrum. But it is still sitting there, looking at me, calling to me, and I will get to it, hopefully soon. So as of now, those are my reading plans. We'll see what all I get to. I am still really just holding my plans pretty loosely. If I only finish 1 more book, and that's By Any Other Name this month, I will count that as a win. Until next time, happy reading. The second book I finished was The next book that I who opened a hotel that is themed after